Welcome to the Public Voice Salon. We're an open dialogue on education, the arts, and social change. My name is John Braden. I'm an educator and a writer. My wife Claudia is filming us, and we're with Elliot Appel at the Hoboken Historical Museum, and he's got this amazing show called Mile Square Colors. Mile Square is the nickname for Hoboken, and Elliot likes to wander around, look at beautiful things, and what he sees that inspires him, he paints on the canvas. Hoboken is a gorgeous town. It's very aesthetic, and Elliot, in the magic of his art, is capturing the beauty. Let's start with this canvas right here, Elliot. You could talk a little bit about what this is and what inspired you to paint this.
Well, basically,
let's get out of the way so we can see the work.
Basically, what I do is I have my iPhone and I just pick a certain area of the town, and I walk up and down the streets. And if I see something that interests me or that just strikes my fancy, I take a picture of it. And it could be something colorful. It could be old architecture. It could be a storefront. It could be an old deli. But what I really like to do is capture the oldness of a place and try to preserve it on a canvas so that future generations will be able to see it before it gets torn down and replaced by some glass structure. Wow. So this is just a sample of what I do.
The colors are magnificent. I mean, what you just see these colors, and it's like so vibrant and so gorgeous and so beautiful.
Well, that's partially due to the medium that I use, which is acrylics. And the thing with acrylics as opposed to oil paint is as you continuously apply the paint, the colors get stronger and stronger. It's a slight exaggeration from the photo, from the original photo that I took, but really not that much. If I had the photo, you'd be able to see that it's fairly similar. But I do like the vibrant colors, and I go for lots of shadow and perspective, as you can see. And those are the elements that I look for in a subject.
We're so happy. We're so lucky to have you here in this gallery space, this beautiful space. And we're going to look around at the work, and if you could be inspired to say whatever you want, any kind of anecdote, also to educate our audience about art and how to, So we're all, I think, creative people. Everybody has a creative side, and we want to inspire people to make art, but also to appreciate art as well. Absolutely. Let's look at this Malibu diner. That's like a famous Hoboken diner. What inspired you to do the Malibu?
Well, again, it's a combination of old and new. I like the old facade of the diner. It's just kind of a juxtaposition of shapes in this one. And obviously there are a lot of bars and pubs in Hoboken, so I thought it was kind of a typical subject matter for the town. Well, that's basically it.
There's a lot of layering there. There's a lot of elements here blending.
There
you
are
have
a lot of different things going on. It's a very on the face of it, it's a simple subject matter, but there are a lot of little different things going on. You have the oldness of the diner, you have the newness of the sign, and you have a typical feature of Hoboken, which is beer.
You have this beer hovering over the diner.
Right.
Many a drunken night out and then wind up at the diner.
Exactly. And
okay. Let's swing around to over here. This is the train station now, which is a landmark. This is a beautiful structure.
Yeah.
Why is it green, by the way?
Well, that's typical of the old like mansard style roofs, French architecture style, which I honestly don't know why they chose the green color. I guess maybe it was originally copper. Maybe it's oxidation from the copper. But I commute daily, and again, this is one of those things that a lot of people would just take for granted as they go back and forth on the PATH train. But a lot of times you have to look up to see really old and really architectural values that stand out. And part of my job as an artist is to make people
Yes.
look up and notice these things. I mean, this beautiful piece of architecture, and people just go walking by it every day. They don't even know it exists. So hopefully I can inspire people to take notice of these things and appreciate them more.
You do that, and that's what art does. You know, it wakes us up. It snaps you out of a trance in a way to see the beauty that's all around us in everyday life. You know, it's like almost you can get high on art. You know, well, in a way, you can get happy. You don't need the beer or whatever.
You don't need
the little beer.
The beer helps. The beer helps. The beer certainly doesn't hurt. But it really gives me a great feeling to come across some of these architectural details, and it gives me an even greater feeling to be able to share them with the public.
Wonderful.
Capture them and put them on canvas.
So I want to give our audience a sense that this is the Hoboken Historical Museum, and it's very vibrant. Let's just pan the camera around a little bit, Claudia. There's a Frank Sinatra show going on right now. Frank Sinatra at 100 years old, which is an amazing, amazing show. We did a whole special on this last year, all right? And I think there's a few months left for this show. If anybody hasn't seen it, it's really great to, admire Old Blue Eyes, and a lot of famous people came out of this town. And maybe once people see this, Elliot, maybe, you'll be the next...
I don't know if you know this, but a lot of people used to call him Old Blue Mouth.
Old Blue Mouth. Oh, come on. Oh,
Okay. Fact.
Okay. Let's look at the work. Let's come over here now, and we have A View from Hoboken, it's called. This is what people love. They love the water, the river, and the scene of New York. And maybe Claudia can get the camera in there, sweetie? Sure. Okay.
And this is also kind of a historical document in a way, because I did this painting in the late 90s before serious development really started to hit Hoboken and modernization. And Hoboken had these old piers jutting out into the river. I don't think there are any left. Maybe there's one or two left, but they're also a thing of the past. There's probably, an apartment, a condo where that pier used to be now. So it's pre-development stage.
People think about On the Waterfront, the great movie.
Yes. Filmed right in Hoboken, probably feet from here, from where we're standing. It's a lot of history in Hoboken.
Let's swing over here. Hoboken Furniture. This sign is actually still there. It's like one of those old-fashioned signs.
And that's another thing I look for. I look for remnants of the old part of town. And, the building is, as I said, is probably a condo now and all this. The sign is still there. At least it was there when I took the photo for the painting. I don't even know if it's still there.
Is that on First Street, by the way?
It is on First. Yeah, that is on First Street, or it was on First Street. I don't know if it's still there.
I see that when there's a cafe there, and I look up, and I just love the fact that that's still there.
Yeah, it's part of old Hoboken, and it's something that struck my eye, and it's something that I would like to, at least on canvas, preserve for future generations.
Cool, very cool. Let's come over to this one. This is called the Hoboken Skyline, and this captures the tops of the buildings, a little bit of trees, and some sky. And what street is that, Elliot?
I believe this was on Washington Street. It might have been Hudson. A lot of times I'll go up and down streets and just take a photo without actually documenting the street number or the street name. I just get caught up in the subject matter and I take the picture. But I do believe that was on Washington.
People forget the aesthetic beauty of a town like this, especially if you look at the sterility of suburban monoculture.
Exactly. There's so much character to the architecture in Hoboken, and there's so much variety that I'm constantly finding new things to take photos of it and paint.
I think real estate prices are going to double after this comes out. Let's come over here.
Get a cut. It's not my to find.
Now, this one you call Three Sisters.
It's just a name that I chose. Most of my titles for paintings are startlingly unimaginative. But
I think it's a great title, actually.
For this one is probably an exception. I just couldn't think of a title to accurately, three building fronts didn't do it for me, so I just I was looking for something a little different on that one.
And look at the way the shadow and the light play. It's
Yes.
just with the red and the sidewalk and those old window
I
frames.
try to capture. I look for a lot of shadow, probably a little film noir influence. I'm heavy into movies, so I like
Really?
that. Those 40s film noir things.
Aren't they great, those
Yes.
old movies?
Yes. So I look for subjects that have shadow and different light effects, and so this one definitely has that. As
Awesome.
does the next one.
The next one is Lisa's Deli, which is one of those old-fashioned Italian delis. I know Tony. I've known Tony for years. Yeah, he's a great guy, and this is a wonderful store. When you walk in there, it's like you're in Old Italy or Little Italy. It has that feeling.
I've actually been in there a couple of times and picked up a couple of sandwiches. A great place. It's a great place, and it's old school, and I like old school. So it's just another thing that caught my eye. I had to
Sit outside and have a sandwich there too.
Yes, nice. Pass the time.
Making me hungry here now.
I'm getting a little hungry myself.
Now the next one is called On Washington Street.
Now, this painting, again, this is put sort of a different perspective on things. And again, I try to encourage with my art people to look up.
Yeah.
See different things, see different perspectives of buildings that you just might not notice. And this is one of those cases.
Can we look into the camera and say, get off the smartphone?
Get off the smartphone, look up, people. Look up. Take notice of your surroundings. There's so much around you.
Yes.
Take your time and appreciate these things, because you never know, next week or the week after, or whenever, they might not be there anymore.
Wow. But look down too, don't trip.
Yeah, be careful. And make sure your shoelaces are tied at all times. Yes.
All kinds of practical advice from a Public Voice Salon. Now we have this one, the vibrant colors of Zafra, which is a great Cuban restaurant. Am I
Yes, I think
right on it?
Central American / Cuban. I've eaten there once. The food is very good. I'd recommend it. There's also a great place across the street called Zach's, which is very good. We go there quite often. And again, what attracted me to this was basically color. I mean, how could it not? I mean, look at it. It's just a very dynamic subject, and something that caught my eye. I had to
I
capture.
want to walk into that painting. I mean, it's got such a magnetic appeal that it's almost larger than life.
Yeah, this one is mainly color and shadow again underneath the awning, and a little shadow play on the sidewalk. That's what I like.
Cool. Let's look at the next one. This is called Bloomfield Blue.
Yes, for obvious reasons, and it's just an architectural standout as far as I was concerned. Living in Bayonne, there are some variances in architecture, but not nearly as many as there are in Hoboken. And again, this struck me as being fairly unique, so I just felt like capturing it at the time.
Awesome. And who was it that lived on Bloomfield Street? Stephen Foster, the singer, Jeannie with the light brown hair. He actually lived on 5th and Bloomfield Street. Right. And Dorothea Lange lived on, I think, 11th and Bloomfield Street.
Okay.
She was a photographer who liked to take photographs of like the Great Depression era. So she used like photography to highlight social issues.
Okay.
So two famous people lived on Bloomfield, and now we have more images.
A lot of the houses and structures on Bloomfield, I would imagine, are still as they were maybe 60, 70, 80, maybe even 100 years ago. And that's it's a very striking street, very colorful, and a lot of variety, a lot of architectural variety.
It's the historical feeling that you get when you walk around Hoboken. It almost feels like you could be in a movie or something, because it sort of blends with the movies that you've seen in the past, right? And
I got to tell you, when we first started coming to Hoboken, I guess it was in the early 80s, mid 80s, actually late 80s, when my daughters were taking art lessons at a church here in Hoboken. And we told my father-in-law that we were coming to Hoboken, and he was like, "Why are you going? Nobody goes to Hoboken. Why are you going?" Because he remembered he was thinking of the Hoboken from the 50s, Hoboken from the 40s, which had a vastly
Rough characters, right?
a much different reputation than the nice, gentrified, prettied up Hoboken that we see today.
A lot of bars, a lot of gangs, and a lot of tough guys.
Well, we still have a lot of bars, but not as many gangs, thank goodness. So.
Let's see now. This one is called Hoboken Wire, and this is another beautiful facade of a home, and it's got something going on with the wires, though.
Yeah, and that's what attracted me to it. It's not something you see every day. Just these like circular wires strung across in front of this very pretty facade, and with the shadow. It's a combination of things. It's the wiring, it's the shading, it's the architectural beauty of the structure, all combined to make it, I think, a very nice subject matter.
So the mind of an artist and how you think and how something strikes you, and then you just all of a sudden say, this is going to be a painting.
Again, you know it when you see it, you know, and as I said, I could be walking for an hour and not come across anything, and then all of a sudden you turn a corner, bam, hits you.
Wow.
You know, it's great. It's great. And
You had an opening here a couple of weeks ago, and the place was packed. You had a really good opening. It was very exciting. It was very social. I met your family, very nice people. And
yes, most
Good time.
relatives are. Yeah, they're okay. Some of them.
Okay, let's go to the next one. Hoboken Sunset. Isn't this gorgeous? Look at the shadow play. This is St. Matthew's Church, I think?
Yes, it is. It is. And I finally took notice of the name on my way walking up here today, because I hadn't. Again, it was one of those cases where I just took the photo because it caught my eye, and I didn't take notice. But today I did. I passed it again, and I saw it's St. Matthew's, and again, right place at the right time. Just about sunset, and a nice shadow play on the building, nice architecture, everything that, a lot of the things that make a painting make a good subject for me to paint.
St. Matthew's is one of the oldest churches in Hoboken. I think it's built in like 1850s or something like that. You could still hear the church bells pealing, which is also wonderful about Hoboken. I'll tell you something. My great-grandparents got married there in around 1915. My great-grandfather Eustachio, who was from Italy, and my great-grandmother Emma, who was from East Prussia.
Okay.
So that took place there, and a little bit of history for me.
I don't
but
know
it's
if I mentioned that painting is for sale. I just, you know.
Claudia, can we afford it? Can we afford it? Let's move on to the standout. Look at this one. This is gorgeous.
Yeah.
Okay, where is this? What street is this one?
Honestly, I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you. It was another one of those cases of just seeing this exceptional piece, this structure, and I just said, this is really different. Yeah. And again, the shadow play of the fire escape and all of these things on the building, and of course the top part.
Yes.
The seashell. I mean, it's unique. It's just a unique structure, and a unique painting, I think. So
Makes me think of those old musicals like Hello Dolly, you know, The Music Man. They're set in that time
type of architecture. Yes, absolutely. And that's what I like to capture, the oldness. They don't make them like that anymore, and it's true. It's definitely true.
Things are going so rapidly, I think, and I mean, it's good to have progress, but we don't want to go so quickly forward with technology and smartphones that the past fades out, you know?
There are good aspects of technology and progress, and there are not so good aspects. We don't want to forget our past, and we don't want to. You know, the great thing about these buildings is they used materials, and it was craftsmanship and workmanship that went into making these buildings. And these days, a lot of that is gone because it's quicker, it's cheaper, it's faster, it's more efficient to just put up a glass slab. You know, so.
And Saul Bellow, who was a great writer, once said that everybody needs their memories. He said it's what keeps the wolf of insignificance from the door. Isn't that a great quote? Everybody needs their memories.
And you don't want to forget your past. Right. You don't want to forget where you came from, and you know, it would be a shame to lose a building like St. Matthew's or a building like this. You know, it would just be a shame. And then to see what they put up instead, you know.
Chock full of history, Hoboken is. Really, really is. Let's look at the final piece here. This is Sasso's Italian Deli, which when I see this also I think about the importance of small businesses, you know, and in terms of the rising rents, they have to keep it reasonable for like the mom and pop shops.
Yes. Mom and pop shops in Hoboken are also that maybe dying out is too harsh a phrase, but you just don't see as many around as you used to, and it's important to remember and to show people that you know, these places do exist, and they're an important part of the community. And they're very colorful, and the architecture is unique also. So.
Well, I used to live on Bloomfield Street. So anyway, we just reposition ourselves because it's a nicer background here with this beautiful painting, and this reminds me of the street that I lived on, and I remember I was living with this Italian family, and they would have these long conversations and remembering, like, what was your favorite bakery? No, this was the best bakery. This was, you know, so in the Italian culture and in that working class culture, the small business, it meant something. The deli, you go in there, they know who you are, they know your name. When the show Cake Boss first took off, my analysis of that was, you know, no, it's not just a dumb reality show. This is showing a bakery where you walk in, hey Vito, hey Tony, everybody knows your name. It's the opposite of an antiseptic mall culture, which is anonymous.
It has personality, it has character, it has quality, it has homemade quality. People put their blood, sweat, and tears into these businesses. It means something to them, and it means something to the community. It means a lot to the community. And when one of those places closes, history closes, and you know, the community loses a lot. Yeah.
So you have pleasant moments strolling around Hoboken and looking, and memories also.
Absolutely, absolutely. Whenever I have like a lot of free time, I'll pick a neighborhood, not only in Hoboken, but in New York City, in Manhattan, or in Jersey City as well, and I'll just roam around with my camera and see what I could find. You know, it's like a little mini treasure hunt. You know, it's a lot of fun. It's what I like. What I like to do.
That's wonderful. So I think it's a great antidote to stress. I think art and happiness are also interconnected.
Well,
makes any sense, you know?
Painting is, for me, a form of meditation. Not medication, meditation. The medication comes in. No, the meditation, because you sit down and you become involved in your subject matter and trying to capture it. Sit down for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, goes like that in a snap, and it's you know, clears your mind. You're concentrating on creating something of worth, if for nobody else, at least for myself, because art is also a very selfish proposition. I mean, I want to please myself with what I'm creating first, and if other people enjoy it, you know, that's terrific, but that's not really. It has to please me first. Otherwise, I'm not going to do it. And I never paint the same subject matter twice. Actually, I did one. I believe I did it once.
Which was that one?
I did a painting of Umberto's Clam Bar in Little.
Oh.
Yeah. I had sold the first one, and somebody had seen a photo of the painting, and they wanted one as well. So I made an exception.
Were you part of that famous rub out?
No,
No.
Yeah, Joey
Gallo, Crazy Joey.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I somehow managed to miss that thing.
You stayed home that day.
I stayed home that day. Yeah.
Good.
I ate at the Vinnie's instead of Umberto's.
That's great. That's great. So, but what's cool about art also, it celebrates community, you know, and it gives recognition, you know, to things, to people, even yourself, to be recognized for your work.
Well, I'll say, you know, it has to please me first. You know, that's number one. But I'm hoping that if it captures my eye, and if it's something that I like, that there's other people that are going to appreciate it as well, and that's terrific, because I want people to appreciate these things that I'm capturing on canvas.
And we want to say a great thank you to Bob Foster, who is the manager here. He's the director of the Hoboken Museum. They have a lot of great events here. The Frank Sinatra show is going on right now. But they always rotate shows in the upstairs gallery, and so what's going to happen next? Are you going to take the show on the road? And now that you're a star,
Well,
like Sinatra, look, there's your
yeah, me and old Blue Eyes.
Frankie.
Yeah, right. Old brown eyes, old blue eyes. There you go. No, I do shows all year round. I do shows out. There were a couple of outdoor shows I do in Hoboken. There's a spring show and a fall show. I like to do outdoor shows. I do quite a few shows in Bayonne, which is I have to plug Bayonne because the art scene in Bayonne is really starting to come alive now, and I want people to take notice. We have so many talented artists in Bayonne. It's a happening place, trust me, and it's I think it's going to be the next big thing on the horizon.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Bohemia seems to be gravitating to where the rents are cheaper. Right? So it used to be Greenwich Village, now it's sort of migrating.
Well, we're also hoping to get some of the Brooklyn spillover, because Brooklyn has outpriced itself too, you know. So hopefully people, all you artists out there, if you're looking for an affordable, friendly, accommodating place to work, come to Bayonne, please. We welcome you with.
Oh, that's so sweet. That's so nice. Wow. I was actually in Brooklyn yesterday, and I was on Bedford Avenue in Williamsburg, and just the vibe there is just amazing. Really, even though it's gentrified, you still feel the bohemian energy and spirit.
In some places. Hopefully that'll last, and that'll keep going for a while. But you know. It's the Bohemians are getting priced out. It's the same thing that happened in Soho, right? Soho started out as factory buildings, old foundry factory buildings, and then the artists moved in because it was affordable. Then the artists had to move out because it became unaffordable, and all the boutiques are moving in, all the clothing stores, you know. Every store looks like Chico's, you know, which is, let's just say it's not what it was.
Well, I got a feeling Bohemia is where Elliot is. Bohemia is where Elliot is, so
Just follow me.
follow him on Twitter, too.
Because I can't afford those expensive neighborhoods.
Elliot, you're a great guy. We're so happy to have you on our show. Keep up the good work,
Thank you.
all right? Your
Thank
work is an inspiration to
Keep up
us.
the good work, too. Keep publicizing the arts in New Jersey, New York area. We do appreciate that. We need it.
Thank you so much, Elliot.
You're welcome.
All the best. Happy holiday.
Same to you. Happy holidays.
Okay. Okay, we're still in Hoboken. We took about a long, long stroll away from the museum, maybe about 30 steps, and we're at the shipyard building here in Hoboken, right on the waterfront. It's in a beautiful spot with Eugene Gleason, who's a recovering architect and an artist. He's a painter, and we're in his art-filled apartment. Just to let people know, we discovered Eugene on the Hoboken Art Studio Tour, which happens every year, and Claudia and I always go. We wander around town, and we just said, Eugene, we got to have you on the show. When we saw the work, it's beautiful, and we have you on for a half hour and to talk to you about your work and to show the work, and we just want to start by introducing you to our audience. And let's just begin with what made you want to be an artist.
Well, That's an interesting question, obviously. Not that I wanted to be an artist, but I certainly grew up interested in art and drawing. Even as a young child, I used to, believe it or not, draw high-rise buildings with cranes because my father was a superintendent in the city, and he'd take me to job sites.
In New York City.
Yeah. And so that kind of eventually led me to architecture, and as you mentioned, I'm recovering from architecture. I don't do it anymore, but I was an architect, especially out in California, for about 10 years. So
the architecture is obviously an art form in itself. How did that lead into the painting? What are the connections and interconnections between the architecture and the painting?
Well, that's interesting because when you design a building or a park or something, you're freehand sketching, sometimes on a napkin. I mean, that's how architecture starts. It did change a lot because as you did drawings, they were all hand done and whatever, but today it's all on computers. But certainly that sketching ability, which I had, and the design elements of it certainly helped me move towards art, although it really became a part of my life late in life.
It's great. It's very inspiring for our viewers to see how people develop over a lifetime. Very interested in this new field of psychology, which is called developmental psychology, which is that we continue to change and grow across a lifetime, and people are developing capacities, finding things that they didn't realize they could do at various stages of the game. So it's really inspiring for our viewers.
Yeah, no, that's probably me in a nutshell. I certainly was dabbling in it 42 years ago, but it wasn't till the last 10 years that, as you can see behind me, that I really got into some of the art or producing art.
We could be in Paris here in Hoboken. It's like Hoboken on the Seine River. It's actually the Hudson, but this could be like Gertrude Stein's salon.
We have the Hudson River up here also in one painting.
In your work.
Yeah.
Let's wander around. Let's just be like kids in a candy store and discovering this and that, looking at the work. Obviously, you're splattered with paint here. You've been busy working on stuff. We're going to get you at the easel later. We just want to have a sort of a, as content-filled a half hour with you and talking about your work. Any anecdotes, any thoughts or feelings that you want to express about your work?
Great. I think a good place to start might be 42 years ago, when I was applying for to get into Arizona State College of Architecture. One of the requirements was a drawing class, and so I have some works that date back 42 years, 1974, 75.
We'll go to the early work.
Right.
Let's proceed.
Okay.
So we're looking at Eugene's early work when you were in college, Gene. Is that true? You could hold the mic too.
Okay. Definitely in college, or starting college. College of Architecture in Arizona. So.
Address the audience too.
Right.
Hi there.
Yeah, it was interesting because I expected sand dunes and that sort of thing. I had no idea what Arizona was going to be like. But anyways.
Okay. Cactuses.
Yeah. So when I applied, I needed some type of drawing class, art classes. So
Hold the microphone just a little closer.
So,
that's good. Okay.
This is kind of those drawings that date back to 1974 here and over here. Yeah, and the only reason I'll go real quickly is I love this particular painting because as you can see, it's Washington, D.C. 74 years ago and how I felt about it. Which is poignant, obviously, because it's the same way I feel about Washington, D.C. today.
Okay, yes.
And I don't have to talk about the elections and all that.
All you got to do is say, that's enough.
Yeah.
An image speaks 1,000 words.
And
what about these works here, too? Yeah.
this was an interesting one because, again, it had to do with technology. Some people don't recognize it, but it is a grave with a headstone and a chair and an old TV. And somehow I thought that TVs were going to die 42 years ago. So,
well, Claudia and I are trying to save TV with our show.
Right.
And you're helping us do that now.
Good. Well, it was the type of TV. But anyways, and real finally, this was just an exercise, a paper bag that they had us do, and it was with crayon. So it's a black crayon, Crayola crayon. And about 10 years ago, you know, I loved the drawing, but it just didn't say anything. So I erased and drew around it these plastic bags. So I call it now, May the Best Bag Win. So as you know, plastic bags may be on their way out and brown bags may be back. So.
Wow. What's old is new, and what I like about this is the door opening, the open door. That's one of my favorite metaphors, is the opening of a door. You know, doors opening to the future, doors opening for creativity, and that's what we like to do with our show, is open doors. That's what art does.
Well, bingo. And this is all pencil, just one pencil, different weights and whatever, but I enjoyed doing it.
Let's go to some of the newer work. Let's just sort of walk in action here in the beautiful apartment, Hoboken pad of Eugene Gleason.
As you remember, when you came in from the art show,
Yeah.
I asked people to rate the paintings.
Yeah.
And so they went 1 to 5. That's right.
This is the actual homework assignment you gave us, Gene.
And that's right. Okay. And so certain paintings got high marks, and others, you know, I don't know if I call them low marks, but
Yes.
the amazing thing is that my favorite painting or paintings did not get the high marks.
Oh.
And not that the ones that did get high marks, you know, I didn't like, but I was just surprised that, because I had over 60 people come through. Okay. So, you know, art is in the eye of the beholder, as they say.
As a teacher myself, I see the teacher in you. I appreciate that aspect of it, to reflect on the work through a more formal process of actually having to choose, you know, which ones. These are very beautiful works. Let's take a look at these here. This is are these on the ocean somewhere?
Yeah, this is in Long Beach Island, and most people from down there know the Shack. It's collapsed now and gone. Okay. But it was there for the last 50 years. And a number of years ago, I couldn't help but want to paint it. Yes. And then I thought I wanted to paint it at different times, lights and times of the year. So this one being an actual oil, then I had it reproduced as a chiclet on canvas, and then I redrew over that canvas in acrylic paint. So you'll see that that's how I got the 3 paintings that are almost identical, except for, you know, the weather conditions or time of day. So that was kind of fun.
Wow. So these paintings I was attracted to, Claudia and I, because we both like these, because we go to Ocean Grove, New Jersey every year. My parents live there, and we get to see these beautiful tents. It's a very spiritual community, and it's a lot to look at aesthetically. So were you visiting Ocean Grove? How did you get inspired by that?
Yes, I was in Ocean Grove, and you couldn't help it, but love it. The interesting thing again with this is there's another one tents there. Yeah. Those 2 were actually one painting at one time. But I didn't like it, the way they looked, so I cut it in half. And so I have what I think is, you know, a good composure of you know, how it looks. So.
Yeah. And the big one in the middle, this is somewhere looks like Oklahoma or Colorado or somewhere out west.
Havasupai Indian Reservation in the bottom of the Grand Canyon. And I did a sketch of it. This is one of the early works that I've done, and when I was down with the Boy Scouts. Anyways, and I decided to try watercolor, which is really difficult. As you can see, I'm such a detailed painter that, you know, and watercolors are so flowing and colorful. But anyways, a lot of people liked it. It was number 4.
Beautiful, beautiful work. And I love this moon shot over here. That's gorgeous moon shot. And just the other night, they said the moon was like the closest to the Earth it's been in like 70 years. So Claudia and I walked along the waterfront. We looked at the moon. Claudia also comes from a town in Colombia called Chia, which actually means moon in the indigenous language. So the moon is a very special place for.
This is another series. This was an actual oil.
Yeah.
And then I reproduced it again on giclée and repainted this one and this one in acrylics over it. So I'm done doing that, but I enjoyed it at the time. So.
Do you charge admission here? I mean, this should be like a museum. This is unbelievable. Forget the MoMA, folks. Come to Hoboken.
By the way,
come to Gene's place.
We might want to look at number one.
Let's look at which one. Okay, number one. Here we go. Ta-da!
Yeah.
Drum roll, please. Brrrr.
This was number one, and it was interesting because at one time it was black and white, all pencil. You can see it here in the clouds in different areas. And it just didn't have the punch that I wanted.
Okay.
So then I came back in with some colored pencils and kind of brightened it up a little. And it turned out that of the 60 people coming in, this was the one that they liked the most.
And where is this, Eugene?
This is, again, Long Beach Island. Okay. I have a brother who lives down there, a chiropractor, and so I go down to visit him quite often, Bob Gleason. And, yeah.
So, this might be number one, but if I look at number three over here, I kind of like this a little better. I love the vibrancy of the colors, the sky, and the way that field looks. It looks like it's covered with snow. It's just very, very atmospheric and beautiful. Where is that shot taken?
Okay, that was, again, this is Clinton, New Jersey.
Okay.
And it's a pastel. So I kind of jump around from pastels to acrylics to oils to pencils to whatever, I'm into. And now it's a little bit of watercolors. And by the way, I don't know if you want to show it. That's number two,
Yeah,
Hoboken.
I want to show Hoboken because Claudia and I, we live in Hoboken and we love it when it snows. I'm a snow person. I just love the blizzards and the beauty of snow. People seem to complain a lot about snow. It's like de rigueur, but when it snows, I'm like a little kid. I just love the snow.
Well, it's funny or interesting. The two paintings I have of Hoboken happen to be snow. So this one is Bloomfield, okay, and then this other one right here is the gas station off of 14th Street. And people will ask if, do I do it from a picture or whatever, and I do use photographs as help, but if you know Hoboken, there's actually two gas stations here.
Oh, yes.
But I only painted one in place of the two. So I use photographs as a reference sometimes, but generally it's as a reference only, and then I create whatever I feel like doing. And
That's your freedom. Art allows you to be creative and free and play and experiment. This is beautiful. The pink flowers and that sky is just so dramatic and dynamic. You see a little bit of the water, the blue in the background.
right there, yeah.
This is down the shore also?
Long Beach Island again.
I think the property value is going to go up in Long Beach Island after this goes out.
Actually, it's I made it to a competition in Long Beach Island, and first place for that the Shack. I think maybe 5 years ago.
Wow.
We're surprised. My brother said that they're having an art thing, and maybe you should.
Message to the Hamptons crowd. Jersey Shore, place to be, Jersey Shore. Let's swing over here. Gene, I love this one. I love the sky. This is like a Manhattan scene from Jersey, is that? I mean, the sky is so dramatic. Look at the colors there. It's like transcendent. It's luminous. It's just gorgeous. Is this a scene like from your apartment? Because you can look out your window here and you can see the Manhattan skyline.
It definitely is. I certainly used a little creative license here, but yeah, it was that sun, that little yellow spot coming through that just, I said I've got to do that, and so that was a fun one. That's an acrylic.
Well, and the great thing about Hoboken is we could just stroll to the waterfront. Claudia and I love to do that, like after dinner. I don't know what people do in the suburbs. I don't know what they do after dinner. You know, they watch TV maybe. We stroll by the river, we talk, we look, we just sit quietly. It's very meditative. And if you look right above the river shot, you have this beautiful sort of you know, like a little stream or a lake and a meadow, and the colors are just brilliant, very transcendent there. Where is that, Gene?
That was actually out west, near Yosemite. And again, it got a third place, whereas if you had asked me, it would have been like in 30th place, which continues to astound me. As I said to you, the apples down below.
Okay.
That's my favorite painting. But it was not the favorite painting or even close in other people's opinion, which is an eye-opener for me.
I thought it was a Cézanne. I don't know if that was okay. Now let's see over here. Just the one on the left there. It's like the sky is very luminescent and the orange flowers. So nature is something important to you.
For sure, for sure. And that was obviously in the fall up near Bear Mountain. And it was kind of an easy painting in the sense that what struck me is how the sunlight came through those clouds and just like a flashlight illuminated the colors. So, you know, that was kind of an easy one.
Message to our politicians in Washington: save the environment so that Gene has something to paint, okay? Save the environment. Let's walk over here. We're going to wander over to Gene's easel, okay? It's a very, very great place to... This is the art. Look at that chair. Don't sit down. I want to show that chair. I love this chair. This is like you're back in school, you know, like old school schoolhouse chair. It's great. Sturdy as they come.
I use it for changing light bulbs all the time.
You're about to get scolded and sent to detention, but no, that's great.
Yeah, this is wow. This is my studio right here. So I just paint right here and sometimes watch TV or have music or, you know, whatever I feel like. And
this apartment is great.
yeah. So you know, you don't need a large space. You know, just enough for your chair and easel.
I think a lot of people out there, Gene, like want to be creative, but they just can't find the time, or they get frustrated. Or what advice would you have for someone who feels that they have it in them, but they're holding back? Or
well, two things. Number one, I'd suggest they just take an art class. They have them here in Hoboken and any town in New Jersey, New York, for beginners. And the second thing about it is it just helps your spirit when you paint or draw. It just feels good when you're done.
Yes.
It can be a little complicated going through the process. You don't like it, you hate it, but hopefully towards the end of it, you like it. Because that's what all of these I go through. You know, I have some really big ups and downs, and then finally that up.
you know, I just caught my eye, this globe. Claudia, show that globe because we want to give an international perspective to our audience. Art as a unit. This is an old globe?
Oh, very old.
Wow, I love it. It's great.
Yeah, that's probably 50 years old.
And just to show that art is a universal language, and this show is going around the world on the internet. It's showing on TV in New York, but it's going around the world. So people all over the world, we want them to go for their dreams, you know, artistically, realize that art is healing. My Claudia is from Colombia, Bogota, so we're an international show, and we're so glad that we have a chance to have you on it and speak to the world. John Dewey once said, he was a great philosopher, that the aesthetic is the opposite of the anesthetic, and the anesthetic puts you to sleep. So it seems like a lot of people now are like sleepwalking, you know, they're walking around with the smartphones, but a work of art can wake people up. Does that make any sense?
It does. It makes you feel really good. I mean, the fact that you're here looking at this makes me feel good. So it's, but it's a process. You know, some take days, some take hours, whatever. But it's you're working towards something. So it's a lot of fun.
We're going to continue our dialogue. We're going to move back to the couch, and we're going to be reflective. I think we've got about 10 minutes left, and just talk more about art and, you know, what gets you excited about art and what the past, present, and also future.
All right.
So we're on the couch again now, but first I just want to show my beautiful socks that I'm so proud of, my colored polka dot socks that my mom gave me, and that's a very artistic sock. Well, you got nice, paint splattered pants and...
Pants and shirt, for sure. So I don't ruin too many other things because I can't help but clean my brushes on my pants.
Thinking about art, let's just go a little deeper in. You think some people can be intimidated by art? Like some of the language can be very difficult, or people go to a museum and they just sort of like either don't get it or don't understand. How can we help people become more comfortable with art?
That's an interesting question also. Well, one is just to go see it. Now, how you get people to do it, obviously we have a lot of great studios, artists here in Hoboken, and so they want you to come in and look, even if you're not buying, which is understandable, but it can be intimidating, and like I said, to even get started in art isn't, if you're not an artist or whatever, or you don't feel you have it. But sometimes, you have to take the first step to walk a mile. So, so you've got to take that first step, and then it comes together. It does. It's funny how that works.
Taking an action in some way, like getting off the couch.
Exactly. And I try to practice that because there's other things that I'm not sure about, like watercolors, for instance. I'm very uncomfortable with them. But this past summer, I was with some high school friends. I still stay in touch with. My friend Harry had a place down the beach. We went down there, so every day I did a watercolor. And just real quick.
Grab it.
I'll grab it.
And I'll take a sip of wine while you're doing that.
I'll show you that. I don't know if you can zoom in on that. Yeah. Okay. So I did 3 watercolors. And this was ink and watercolor. And I never really did them before. And so each day for 2 hours with my friends, I would, paint this, which is really, it's ink and watercolor. In other words, you'd have to come up close. You could see the ink lines. And so every day I painted a painting, and I gave each one to my 3 friends. This is just, like a print of one of them. And I think I gave this one to either Chris or Harry, or I'm not sure. But anyways, so back to your point, you have to take that first step. So I did it that day on the beach, and wow, this one came out pretty good. Let me try it again. And then again. And it just, so that comfort level because of that first step.
Are some people born with it, Gene, or can it be developed? Is it like a seed that's in there that has to be nurtured, or?
I think both.
Okay.
I truly do. I think there are people that are naturally talented in the arts and really get it. But I do think people can learn through, learning perspectives and colors and art professors. Okay, you may not become a famous artist, but certainly I in some of the studios that I've seen where just amateur people go in, I've seen some really great works come out, so, and even ones that maybe aren't so great, but I think the person inside just feels good about it,
I love the fact that Picasso was still going in his 90s, He just had that urge, I think it could keep you going. It could keep you alive. Does that make any sense?
It does, because art is the one thing for me that I know I can probably do, till I'm not around anymore. I mean, except for maybe eyeglasses, I think it's one of those things, golf is something, when you get a little older, it gets a little harder, and there's certain things you can and can't do. But art, I think you can take to the grave.
Well, we love you, Gene, because you're not a snob. You're very down to earth, right? Gene is a regular guy. Some artists, they get on that high horse and whatever, and you're very unapproachable. You're very approachable. You have a kindness about you. Let's maybe switch over even to get away from art per se to, well, movies are art.
Yeah.
Do you have any to think about movies you've seen in your life or TV shows? And let's get a sense of what you developed, watching TV. Since this is a TV show also, favorite TV shows, favorite movies that may have influenced you creatively.
I'm not sure creatively in the sense of art, but certainly Shawshank Redemption comes up to mind. I mean, as a favorite of mine. But that's a very
Morgan Freeman.
moving type of never giving up, right? And where people think that there's no way you can get out of here and escape, and this guy, he took that first step, he got that little chisel knife and went to work. So that's it. And my son Connor keeps me up to date on a lot of the new internet cable TV shows, like which is fun because there's so much good stuff out there. A matter of fact, I just started watching Westwood, so I texted him the other night.
Okay.
And I wanted to tell him that I didn't know if he knew that there was the movie Yul Brynner did it 30 years or 40 years ago. Was Westwood. So this little series is on an old movie, and so I wanted to tell him, you have to look at that. You've got to look at that movie, and then this Westwood, that's today's Westwood, will make a lot of sense. So,
Yeah, we were just watching, Claudia and I, on TV on Turner Classics, The Great Race with Tony Curtis. Just looking at the old colors, the Technicolor movies with the scenery. Like they're out in the West, and you're seeing the beautiful scenery, much like your paintings.
Well, I have a special place for the out West because I've matter of fact, I just finished an 8-week trip out west and back in my truck and trailer.
Ooh.
So
Cowboy hat?
Not this time, but I do have one because my son and I went to a dude ranch, I don't know, many years ago for a week of horseback riding. But I love the West, Yosemite, the Grand Canyon. I went to see the Mesa Verde, the Pueblos, which kind of has a little architecture to do with it. It's the Indian Pueblos that are under the cliffs, the cliff dwellers. So that was astonishing that, this civilization of 30,000 people back in 700 lived there. And then they all disappeared 400 years later.
Well, I think we need to keep alive the knowledge of the indigenous cultures and, Indians in South America, North America. It's a pleasure to be with you here today, Gene. Thank you so much for spending time with us, and we hope to continue our friendship with you, off the air, on the air, and keep up your wonderful creativity.
Well, thank you very much. This was kind of an unexpected pleasure, I have to say, being invited. And so how do we see this? Or
we'll let you know. You'll be able to watch it on TV and also on the computer on YouTube.
Okay. I can do YouTube.
Okay, have a good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gene. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Good.